Welcome everybody to the very first Anfield Agenda video podcast. On this week's show we're going to have myself, Dave and Cash, as you can see in the images, and we're going to have a chat about a couple of topics Liverpool related. The way this is going to work, guys, is we're going to go through these subjects one by one. So I'll give you guys a bullet point that we're going to talk about, and then of course you guys are free to put your comments in the chat, anything in particular you want me to ask the guys or anything you'd like us to address around the subject that we're talking about. So I'll drop back in as soon as I can to the chat and see what you guys want to bring up. But firstly, the first subject, guys, I want to have a chat about is RABIOT to LFC and the news that apparently we're very interested in a free signing, Dave, and Klopp has watched them during this time at Borussia Dortmund, wanted him there. I thought he was going to Barcelona, mate, but what's your take on this?
I just love his Instagram pictures of the Kop and pictures of Gerrard. I think if Klopp puts enough emphasis on to sign him, it's a done deal. We've seen what Klopp does before when he wants a player, so he'd be a cracking free transfer. My God, unbelievable business if we can get him in.
It really would be a good piece of business, and as I said, Cash, for me he was nailed on to go to Barcelona, but while there's hope, I'm going to hold out hope as well here from our end. I think that he will be an excellent addition to this Liverpool team.
Absolutely, like there's no smoke without fire in respect of this interest. It appears very real, it appears very tangible, and like Dave said, there's pictures all over his Instagram relating to Liverpool, Steven Gerrard, etc. and so on. So there's a pre-existing connection there. And also, I think Liverpool are probably a more attractive proposition than Barcelona, like in certain ways, maybe not in every way, but like Dave said, if Jurgen works his magic, we know what he can do.
Dave, there was something that was pitched to me the other day. I think it was by somebody from the chat here. They said, here's an idea. Let's bring in Rabiot and then let's move on Adam Lallana. And I've got to be honest, mate, I don't know how I feel about that scenario.
I wouldn't feel too bad. Lallana, look, next birthday, he's 31. Just the injuries are just, I know he's not out for that long, which is great. But, yeah, Rabiot's going to improve your squad. I wouldn't say dramatically, but he's going to improve what's there, and that's the main thing for me. If he's improving you know, if he's adding more to that midfield, he's look, in my opinion, he's a very high ceiling. He's 150 games under his belt already, and he's only 23. So for me, it'd be a no-brainer. And
Cash, that is something that has shocked a lot of people here about Adrien Rabiot, is that he is only 23 years of age, and that is scary when you think of the amount of games at a high level that he's played so far in his career.
Exactly. I mean, it is scary, but it's also not a coincidence. You don't play that many games at the highest level at such a young age without being an incredibly talented player. I think if we're to balance the argument, we should say as well, there have been some allegations of problems with his attitude. Obviously, the whole situation with the France squad in the summer, he refused to be a standby, and he's had issues at PSG. And that's not me saying we shouldn't sign a player and Jurgen Klopp couldn't work with his temperament, but I think it's just to make people aware that this is a player that does have that little bit of edge to him. But, you know, in terms of like the Lallana comparison, you know, there is no comparison. He's 7 years younger. They're different players. And I think he would, you know, in the present moment and in the future, would offer a lot more than Lallana, who is very much a fading force.
Dave, Thomas Boland has a point here in the chat that I'm going to bring straight to you. And it is a true point. He said, I hear that Rabiot's agent is indeed his mother, which kind of makes it a little bit strange.
Yeah, we do. We hear about these things. There's a few players who have their parents as agents, and Ryan Brewster, I suppose, is the one that springs to mind. And I think Jordan Ibe had his mother as well. So it's not really a surprise. It's she'd obviously have his best interests at heart, and the way the kind of Klopp is, that could very easily play into our hands as well, because Klopp would be selling it as a family club, you know, real family attitude around the club as well. So any mother, that's what they want to hear.
You can almost hear L'Oreal there waiting to sign a sponsorship deal with Liverpool as soon as Rabiot comes in. Flowing hair all over the place, you know, shiny locks.
Beautiful hair.
Yeah.
You'd have L'Oreal, we've got Nivea already, like, would be covered in terms of like the product.
He looks to me, Cash, like a hair upgrade and a player upgrade to Markovic, if we're looking at the same similar looking player. Like, I know they're not the same type of footballer, but he looks like an improvement on Markovic from the hair point of view anyway.
From a purely hair perspective, absolutely, and I think Markovic will shit himself if he does come in, because he'll be thinking, God, the one thing I could offer uniquely was my lovely flowing long hair, but now there's also a player that can trump me in terms of that. So, yeah, definitely There's no denying it. He is an elegant man.
And guys, just to turn back to the chat and let everybody know, this is our first video podcast. You're very welcome along. I see the chat has filled up. The way this works, guys, is we're going to talk about specific subjects for 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm going to give a bullet point at the start of the conversation, and the bullet point at the minute is Adrian Rabiot, as you can see. So if you have any questions on this subject that you'd like me to ask the guys, or any comments that you'd like to make, just put them in the chat and I will dip straight back in and then bring them straight to the guys. So this is an interactive pod. We don't really have an agenda as such. You guys are going to make our agenda. Cash, Megan Onke wants to know, with all the games that Rabiot has already played, as Dave pointed out, 150 or so games at 23 years of age, could he be liable to burn out something like maybe Michael Owen we've seen in past players?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because so much of that is dependent upon each player's like specific and unique condition, how well they look after themselves, their genetics. And, arguably, if he was to come to Liverpool, I think sports science and the preservation and recovery of players has advanced so much more since, the Michael Owen era, for example. It's hard to say. I think you can sign any player, or you cannot sign a player on the basis that they might burn out because they've played a lot of games. But the offset is, look how much quality he's got. And if I was to weigh up the two things, I would say go for the quality and don't anticipate that he'll definitely burn out, but obviously be aware that it could happen.
Dave Mossy Wassy said, what a summer it would be if we were to get in Rabiot and Christian Pulisic. That would be his ideal summer, he said.
Yes, Pulisic is a strange one. I work with a couple of boys who are Dortmund fans, and they actually said they don't mind if he goes. He hasn't offered too much. They can't really see him improving, which I found really, really surprising. I'd have Rabiot in a heartbeat, especially for what we'd be paying for him, which would be obviously nothing. But I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Pulisic this season. I want to see, if he is improving, because his goal scoring record, it's kind of it's not amazing for the hype he has and for the money you probably be paying for him.
Yeah, it's tough to know how much of that was down to the team not having a good year last season. With issues with the manager, obviously, Borussia Dortmund as well. And like you, I had him earmarked as somebody I'd love at Liverpool, but he does have to make that step up that we didn't see last year. And Cash, what would you be expecting to see from a player like Christian Pulisic this season if we were to bring him in? What type of step up from last season were you expecting, numbers-wise anyway?
I mean, I think you'd have to say it would be seismic. Firstly, you would say that Dortmund as a team would have to be a lot closer to Bayern Munich, because if they're a lot closer to them as a team, Pulisic will surely be a part of that, I think. But particularly and specifically to Pulisic himself, you'd have to argue he'd have to be one of the best strikers in Europe, because who is going to come into that Liverpool front three and really disrupt anything? It would have to be one of the best players in Europe. Otherwise, it's a definite second choice, which we would never buy Christian Pulisic to be. So, you'd argue that the step up that he'd have to make would be considerable. And I think a lot with the Pulisic is the fact that he's American, we've got American owners, and the narrative fits, and it would work as a type of signing in a marketing way. But, I think we'd have to actually really look at, would the money touted be wise for the player? And this season will tell us that.
It's tough to know, Dave, what type of money you'd be looking at for Christian Pulisic, because a few years back you could have looked at a player going into the last year of his contract, next summer I'm talking about here, and said to yourself, yeah, we're going to get him at a knockdown price. But the way the transfer window has gone over the past couple of years, it's fucking impossible to guess, because we've seen players go for mad money with only a year left on the contract. We've seen Alexis Sanchez basically get swapped for Henrik Mkhitaryan in the last few months of his contract. Mkhitaryan must be worth 35 odd million quid.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. The only thing I'd say about what you'd be playing for Pulisic is you probably get it back, God knows how many, threefold, let's say, with US marketing. As I said, look, footballing wise, I am going to keep a close eye on him this year over here, because, as I said, there's three lads at work. Two of them are season ticket holders with Dortmund, and they're like, look, if he goes, he goes. It's not a big deal. If he was that good, they'd obviously be saying, no, Christ, we don't want him to go. They would rate that Sandro guy, Jadon Sandro, I think his name is, the guy they got from City, higher than him, and they're raving about it.
It's Jadon Sancho.
That's the fella, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the fella, yeah. Cheers, Cash. But marketing-wise, you're just printing money if you buy him, especially with Liverpool, because with the American owners, you're just printing money. So
really interesting here. Looking at the chat, we said that the people are going to set the agenda in the chat, and it looks like transfers are the motherfucking agenda of the night, guys, because there were a load of questions lined up here. So Mickey Friars wants to know, Cash, what do you guys think of Timo Werner and watching him now against France?
I think obviously he didn't have a good World Cup for Germany, but that's not really a fair barometer of anyone's ability as a player because their collective World Cup was so bad. He was very good intermittently. Well, not intermittently. He was consistently quite good in that RB Leipzig team last year, but obviously he hasn't really moved on from there. He's not playing in the Champions League. They're not playing at the highest level. You would argue that Nagelsmann's not going there till next year, so they've got a year of. Is it their director of football, Ralph? What's his surname? I always forget his surname, but he's in charge for the year. I don't really see how he will continue to really escalate his level at RB Leipzig. And he didn't have a World Cup that gave him the platform to move. So for me, he's someone that, again, it wouldn't shock me to see him be amazing in a couple of years, but I don't think he's the kind of player that we, A, need, and B, should put lots of money into buying, because he had his window this summer to really show what he could do at the World Cup. It didn't happen, and he's now gone back to a Europa League club who have lost their best player in Naby Keita last season. So
I'm with you on that one as well, Cash. I don't rate him as much as people rave on about him, to be honest. I really don't.
I think arguably, like, if he was so highly rated, there would have at least been interest. I don't recall there even been a bid for him, like a concrete bid from any club.
If there was that much, if he was that good, he'd be a Bayern Munich player probably next season. Bayern Munich would have been in for him already.
Yeah, Bayern Munich, and obviously they're known for doing that, aren't they? They're known they're known for usurping that talent years in advance, and I don't think it's a coincidence that hasn't happened with Werner. And no one's saying that he's not a very good player, but I think he would need to show it on a much more consistent and high-level basis to even warrant being included in the discussion as to a move to Liverpool, to be honest.
And the Bayern Munich thing, guys, I'm wondering, perhaps with Bayern Munich looking at Timo Werner, are they waiting to see how he gets on this season, see if he makes a progression from last season? As Cash said, he had a very disappointing World Cup from his standards. So they still have Lewandowski at the club, so are they perhaps looking at him as somebody they can bring in the future for Lewandowski?
Maybe. I think obviously Lewandowski's made it very clear, although things have settled now, but he made it very clear that he wanted to move in the summer. He's not getting any younger. He is another one that had a very bad World Cup. So maybe there's something going on in the water that we don't know. But what I would say, regardless, from a Liverpool perspective, is that if that did happen, I wouldn't be especially concerned as to us losing one of the best players in Europe. I think Bayern Munich, if they want him that badly, they can have him. I don't think Jurgen Klopp's that fussed.
Connor said here in the chat, for those of you who don't know, I'm the host, Craig, obviously. Bottom left hand corner of the screen you've got Dave, and of course the lady on the right hand side of the screen is our very own Cash, and you guys have met both these people before, but maybe now you finally get to see their faces. I see Ronald Rees said, I finally get to see the face behind that lovely voice. Cash, I know that's aimed at you, but deep down I'm telling myself
absolutely
it's me.
aimed at Cash.
Is it aimed at me? Oh, that's nice.
Thank
you, Ronald. That I appreciate those kind words. Thank you.
Yeah, Ronald's been a fan since day one, Cash. Since you've come on, he's been a fan of your voice anyway. He keeps letting us know how wonderful it is.
Thank you very much. I hope my voice continues to give you happiness.
There you go. It gives me happiness every time I hear it, Cash, because there's usually a really good point coming from your voice. Dave, we'll push on. And somebody who impressed me during the Reds last game, and somebody who in the chat here, Mossy Wassy, and I love that fucking name, has asked, what about Maddison? What about having a go at James Maddison? Now, I know we were linked with him before he made the move to Leicester, and I know he picked up an injury at the end of the season for Norwich, but other than that, mate, I'm severely limited on what I know about Maddison.
I thought he was one of the stand-up players for Leicester Saturday. I thought he was fantastic. He's not afraid to have a go. He seems intelligent in his decision making and then making runs. I was slightly disappointed that we didn't go in for him, and that's hindsight talking, because you're not going to get him. Like, people were saying that Leicester paid over the odds for him. Looks like they've got themselves a fucking hell of a bargain, because he's a good young footballer.
Yeah, I think that's a really good signing for them. Really good.
He looked the business against us. He really looked well, Cash, didn't he?
Well, that's it. Like, he really, I think what's really elevated him as well is that he kind of plays with a real swagger. Like, he really plays. Like, he knows what he's about. And that's quite impressive for a player that's so young. And I think if you look at his journey, started out at Coventry, obviously was brilliant for them, went to Norwich for one season, and then has gone back to the Midlands. And I think that influenced his decision to go to Leicester. Now, in terms of Leicester, they've done this 2 summers in a row, getting a player for quite good money that's gone on to be really impressive, Harry Maguire and now James Maddison. In terms of us and James Maddison, he wouldn't get into our midfield as it stands. However, I can sort of see why David yearns, partly like because you'd never get him for that amount in the future, assuming that his star continues to rise, which, to be fair, I think is a fair assumption, because he really did look excellent against us. And I think in 2, 3, 4 years, I think maybe less, he'll be at a top 4 club, you would expect.
Dave, what I noticed...
The thing is with him...
Dave, what I noticed about Maddison when he played against Liverpool was, no matter where the fucking ball went, left side, right side, through the centre, Maddison seemed to be involved in the play for Leicester.
Yeah. And, going on what Cash said there as well, the thing that really surprised me, when you have a manager who has the personality of a pair of Y-fronts like Claudio Poole, and he's that expressive, there's something really good there, do you know what I mean? But he was all over the place, and there was another one who was all over the place as well, who we've been linked with a couple of times, and that was Chigwell. I thought he was really good, left back. Really good.
I always liked him.
Yeah, he's a baller, in fairness. Yeah.
If we didn't have the best left back in Europe and the new Scotland captain, I'd be bothered, but I'm not.
The thing about Ben Chilwell is he's an excellent example of giving a young player time, because we were linked with him a couple of years back, and he didn't have the greatest season then. He went through a season of kind of up and downs, which you expect from a young player, but he didn't perhaps have the progression that we would have hoped for. But now, Dave, we're starting to see that progression, and Leicester look like they have an excellent left back there.
Big time, mate. Absolutely. Would you, the way kind of Liverpool is going, I'd have him in a heartbeat, and I don't care. Like, if he costs 30 million for a left back, fine, because I don't really rate Moreno. We were kind of, before we saying off there, the fucker still can't speak English. It's mind-boggling. Yeah, he's been at the club 4 years. So can you imagine having, like, Robbo and Chilwell kind of fighting it back, or fighting it, for that left back position? It's going to raise both their players' games, because I'm not saying Robbo would, but Robbo seems to be the type of player, he wants to keep on going up and up and up, and there's no kind of complacency with him. But when you've got a player like Moreno, who's not really going to challenge you in the left back position, do you say to yourself, look, the position's mine? But with someone like Chigwell in there, he's always going to be hammering at his toes, kind of saying, look, I want to get in that team as well.
Touching back to the Leicester game, Cash, Dirty Girl said, let's face it, our midfield was awful against Leicester. I kind of, not take umbrage to that comment, but I would disagree slightly. I think what happened against Leicester, and this is just my humble view of the game, was that our midfield were almost made irrelevant, because Leicester were pressing so high up the field that our centre-backs weren't, or our full-backs and centre-backs weren't really playing around that press and giving the midfield space. They were just hoofing the ball long, or playing long diagonal balls over the top to try and get the forwards in behind, and our midfield was redundant at times.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really, really good summation of it, Craig. I think for me, there's 2 sort of caveats to the question that's been asked, and the first is that Leicester have chosen to do that tactically because they've seen how dominant our midfield has been in the preceding 3 games. Fair enough. And secondly, after a season last year where the midfield was functional at best, they then started this season in a really swashbuckling, impressive style, and that was bound to plateau at some point. It just so happened to be against Leicester. I don't think that you can read too much into it in terms of, it's a real field experiment, or Keita must play every game. I just think there are some games where certain components of the field will be more relevant than others, and this was a game where the midfield were not, as you said, as relevant. Does that mean that they didn't perform several sort of unheralded aspects of the job well? No, because they obviously did, because we won the game. But it just means that they weren't the forefront of attention, and maybe that's okay.
Maybe it is okay. Dave, how did you see the game?
I thought, if we were going player on player, I thought it was a typical, well, it hasn't been typical this season or maybe for the last 6 months, but it was a Gini Wijnaldum away game. He was non-existent, and
he was.
He wasn't the Gini Wijnaldum, who's really come on, in my opinion, leaps and bounds over the last 6-7 months. He was just absolutely non-existent. I thought it was a tough game for Henderson because, it was kind of his first game starting back. It's a tough place to go, Leicester. It really is. But the main thing is, Craig, for me, it was a game we won ugly. And look, if we win every single game ugly, I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
I do agree. I do agree with what Klopp's saying as well. I do still think we're in pre-season mode. So fucking God help the Premier League when they get their arses in gear and go up them couple of gears.
Someone's getting a fucking kick
Really?
when we hit form.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think someone's due a beating. I mean, one sort of point on the Gini Wijnaldum situation is that, as Dave rightly pointed out, he had a reputation for having away game performances. The one position in the field now where no player can really afford to let the performance level dip even a little bit is midfield, because we're so well stocked, which is an interesting contrast from last season where in the Champions League final they could have all been dog shit. There was no one to replace them, really. So it's an interesting contrast. So I think Gini Wijnaldum, everyone's allowed a bad game, everyone's allowed an imperfect performance, but if that was to continue, it wouldn't be long before he'd be replaced. Let's be honest.
Speaking of replacements, we spoke a little bit earlier on about Lallana, and I do want to move on to the next subject. And guys, just so you can get your questions ready or your comments, the next subject we're going to have a talk about is Jordan Henderson renewing his contract at Liverpool Football Club. So if you have any comments on that one, and any fuck hendos aren't going to be read out clearly, because I know some of them motherfucking comments are coming. Dave, before we move on, Alex Gomez said we have a Lallana replacement and his name is Ben Woodburn.
Ooh, that's a good shout. He's not even getting his game at Sheffield United, so that is a good shout. It's a brave shout that I say, not a good shout. I respect you. Look, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I respectfully disagree. I think Woodburn is struggling a bit. I know he's had a kind of a change of position as well, kind of more into a central midfielder or an attacking midfielder. But I would worry for Ben Woodburn if I was him, to be completely honest.
Cash?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good shout. That I think this loan spell is really decisive, and if that be the case, it's not going well so far. I mean, what's interesting is that when I heard he was going out on loan, and then I heard it was Sheffield United, I thought this is great. He'll get definite game time there. It's a really good club for him. Chris Wilder's a good manager. Did well with them last season. All the features are in place. So now that things aren't quite working so far, given that we know he has the technical ability to be in a team at that level at his age, he does. Like, he's a technically great player. So if we can rightly assume that, there's something else lacking behind the scenes in terms of the chemistry, the symmetry with the team, his particular discipline, if it's positional, if it's tactical, if it's whatever. There's something not quite right, I would say, and I can't venture as to exactly what that is, but when you're out on loan and you're not doing the business, you're very easily forgotten, as we all know. And I think what could have been initially a loan to really see how he develops and bring him back could then transpire to be a loan to put him in the shop window. Yeah.
I just don't think. I think he's a player, Cash, that he's very easily read if you're a defender or even if you're a defensive midfielder. I think he's just stood still. He hasn't progressed. He
hasn't progressed at all. I think it's a plateau was expected because obviously he came in, scored the goal against, was it Leeds? Was this real breath of fresh air and so on. And there was the shock factor of him being a complete unknown entity that enabled him to have an advantage. That's no longer the case. So he no longer has that advantage, and it's now what can he do in the absence of that? Can he show that he's a progressed enough player to combat that? And at this moment in time, he's not showing at a championship level, let alone Premiership level.
Correct.
And that's where your concern lies. If you're Jurgen Klopp, I mean, I say concern if you're Ben Woodburn, because although Klopp loves his players, if someone is not good enough or doesn't have enough to offer, they will be sold. It doesn't matter how nice their story was to begin with.
Yeah, that's true. Look, I want to push on to Jordan Henderson, and I'm going to start with a lovely positive comment from my man Mickey Friars. And Mickey, thank you for this lovely comment, buddy. Jordan Henderson is a must for me. Love the fact he signed a new 5-year deal. His passion for Liverpool is second to none. And Dave, all I can say to that is a fucking men, because I agree with every single word of that from Mickey Friars.
Yeah, same as that. No, I really still rate Jordan Henderson. I think he's a fantastic midfielder. He loves Liverpool Football Club to the bone, and he's not even from the area. He's obviously a Sunderland lad, but he understands the club. He understands it. But even that, I think he understands the manager. and the manager understands him, which is huge. I think, you know, people go on about they want Van Dijk to be the captain, which is fine. Virgil van Dijk will be Liverpool captain one day. But no one on this chat or no one on Twitter, apart from the football players and people in the club, know what Jordan Henderson like is in the dressing room and at training. And apparently he's meant to be an absolute mountain. But he apart from his 9 inches, he's a brilliant footballer. He's an absolute brilliant footballer. And I've said it before on pods. You notice Jordan Henderson and how good he is when he's 100% fit and not in the team. That's when you really notice Jordan Henderson is not in your team, because he is that good.
Yeah. He
does such the simple things right. I'm delighted. And
But Dave, he only passes the ball backwards. We have to address this, Dave. He only passes it backwards. That's why Alisson was brought in, to make it easier for Henderson to pass the ball backwards.
That's such a boring argument. It's so boring. It's just bizarre, and it's just the rhetoric of someone who doesn't know a fucking thing about football. And I think also, you know, it bugs me, because people that see Jordan Henderson just as a footballer don't really understand that a club like Liverpool particularly is about more than just football. It's about the heart, the soul, the emotion. That's what brings a lot of fans toward the club. It brought me closer to the club. Like, I've always been a fan, but it's brought me closer to that emotional tie. Jordan Henderson embodies that. He embodies it. Like, if you were to personify that Liverpool crest on someone's chest, it's Jordan Henderson. No, he's not. No, he's not from Liverpool. He's been there for 7 years. I watched the interview that he did when he signed the new deal. It's just a 10-minute interview where he's beaming ear to ear, genuinely ecstatic. And the caption that I took from it was, "There is nowhere in the world I would rather play football." Now, that's brilliant, because it's true, because we're playing so well and we're in such a positive place. But he has always thought that. He's always stayed, even when that perception of the club could not have been applied, even when things were shite. And they've been shite in the time he's been at the club. He's always been there. They tried to get rid of him to Fulham. He fought. He stayed. He came back. He was instrumental in the 2013-14 season. He was almost the captain of a successful Champions League winning team last season. There's been a lot of almosts. We haven't won enough trophies in his tenure at the club. But he has always wanted to be part of the fabric, and that will always mean something to me as a fan, even if he had lesser footballing ability than he does. But the fact that he does have a lot of ability that people don't appreciate means even more.
There's a couple of things I want to raise on this subject, and I want to start by reading something from Kang Ozzy, who said, "I love Hendo, but VVD should be captain simply because he'll play almost every game. Hendo's still brilliant." Now, there's that argument as well, Dave, and I have a few points to put to you here, buddy. So we've that argument about Henderson maybe not playing every game. That's a valid point. He might not do that. I also want to talk about the point that captain of Liverpool Football Club isn't going to play every game, or shouldn't have to play every game. And I'll give you the example of Michael Carrick, perhaps Ledley King at times, even Cahill at Chelsea. There was a few club captains around, and the job is much more than what goes on the field. Let me cast your mind back, Dave, to the Stadio Olimpico last year. Liverpool had just progressed to the Champions League final. The crowd, the Liverpool section, were delirious, of course, as you'd expect. The players came back out, which was beautiful to see. They were talking to the fans, singing "Allay, Allay, Allay" with them. And then what happens? You see Jordan Henderson having a little chat with one of the stewards around the field. And you see him pointing up into the crowd. The steward then goes and gets the Sean Cox banner and brings it down. And the team stand there showing Sean Cox that they're thinking of him, they're with him and his family. And that they want to help, or they want to let them know that they're thinking of them. Now, you tell me that isn't a fucking captain's move, what he just did there. Like, that is what a Liverpool captain should be all about, summed up in one gesture.
Was that a question for me? Because you just literally took the words out of my mouth. I can't comment. I can't comment any more on that, Craig. That's 100% spot on, mate.
Yeah, I think it's like, I mean, this whole thing of, like, there is a real over-fascination, in my opinion, with captains, insofar as, do you need to have your captain, like Craig said before, do you need to have your captain playing every game? Is there not enough trust within the squad that even if the captain doesn't play a particular game, the leadership qualities can still be on display? You know, and there is a whole, like, I mean, for example, at Brentford, they've got this thing where they've got like 5 captains, and it's called like a leadership group. Now, I think that's a bit like ridiculous, but it just embodies the idea that people are fascinated with the idea of having like one particular leader. But like, if we are to have the debate about whether or not Henderson's a good leader, the answer is obviously yes. Doesn't mean Virgil van Dijk's not a good leader. Doesn't mean other players in the team aren't good leaders. It just means that Henderson has been the captain since Steven Gerrard left. He hasn't done anything, both off or on the pitch, to be removed from those duties, apart from have a few injuries, but nothing that's going to derail his career. He hasn't done anything to be removed from that title. So why disrupt it? Why rock the boat just to install a central defender as your captain?
Correct.
Like, you know, I don't believe that it's necessary. Why mess with the balance? The balance is fine. I think Virgil van Dijk's sound. Like, he doesn't really care. Like, no, he doesn't care. But I don't think he's arsed in the sense that, like, he understands that Henderson, you know, is a very good captain. So why interfere with it?
Well, you made a great point there, Cash, and it's about rocking the boat. So, hypothetically speaking, tomorrow morning, Jurgen Klopp goes into training and he goes, "Look, Jordan, we're going to make Virgil van Dijk captain." What, you know, players kind of in the club will say, "Christ, why is he being a bit disloyal? What has Jordan Henderson done to kind of deserve to lose the captaincy?" So you have to, you know, you can't just give someone a captaincy and take it away from someone, because you're going to fucking piss a lot of people off within that squad.
Exactly, and there's no reason for
Correct.
it. And you know, the inference automatically it would create storylines around the club. Oh,
Yeah.
Jordan Henderson's no longer captain. Does that mean he'll be sold? Does that mean he's no longer
Correct.
first choice? And it creates all this unnecessary buzz that the club don't need. The club just need to focus on trying to win trophies.
That's it. The problem
If
is
Jordan
he's
Henderson
not
had a
Steven
Champions
Gerrard.
League medal.
That's the fucking problem. He isn't Steven Gerrard. I mean, nobody who came in after Steven Gerrard was going to be Steven Gerrard. It's like, look at what's happened at United when Ferguson left. Nobody has come in and been Alex Ferguson yet, and that doesn't mean that perhaps somebody hasn't come in and done a half decent job or that, but nobody was going to be Ferguson. Nobody wanted the gig after Ferguson because it was an impossible gig. It's the same with Steven Gerrard's captaincy. Whoever took that job, Dave, was going to have shoes that are too big to fill.
Craig, I don't know how many years I'm going to Liverpool now, but there was people who, when Gerrard became captain, who were pissed off because he wasn't Graham Souness. So there's always going to be people who are going to be pissed off at who's captain because it's not as good as the last captain. For me, Graham Souness is one of the most successful, well, he is one of the most successful Liverpool captains ever. There was probably people pissed off that, you know, Souness was captain because he wasn't as good as Elman Hughes. So, you know, it's just maybe it's a generational thing, but I'm kind of maybe the voicing the whole of Anfield Agenda here, where here's to you, Jordan Henderson. Absolutely delighted you're here for another 5 years and all going well, Liverpool captain.
I honestly think he may well finish maybe not finish his career, but like it'll be close to the end of his career, I would imagine.
Yeah, I agree completely.
What does he know? How old is he now?
27? 28?
28.
He's 28.
Jeez,
I'll tell you what, guys, we've been talking here for about 10 minutes on Jordan Henderson, but the Revenite has nailed it in one sentence. He said, "To all the Hendo haters, fuck them." And
fuck him,
that's
right.
it. You summed it up. We could have saved ourselves 10 minutes talking there if you had just read out the Revenite's comment a bit earlier.
Good man.
Cash, so McKeever has a comment, and I'm going to bring this one to you. I love Jordan Henderson, but the one thing I'm worried about here is Sadio Mane's contract situation. So how are you feeling about that one?
You know what? I think that's a very valid concern, in the sense that there's been lots of murmurings, but nothing concrete. And I think it's more concerning because he, of the front three, is the only one who's actually started the season, you would say, in full flight. I'm not disparaging Firmino or Salah in terms of their returns as such, but they've definitely been less on the boil than Sadio Mane. So I think in the first 4 games of the season, Sadio Mane has underlined again his importance to the club. And because obviously we've had this succession of new deals, we really need to get that one sorted, because I'm not really one of these people that thinks, oh, you could afford to lose Mane and we can attract anyone now. We're one of the biggest clubs in the world and so on. I think there's a real, again, I bring back the rock in the boat argument. There's a real chemistry, a real symmetry, and a real consistency that's built over the last 2 years with Firmino and Mane. And why would you want to rock that boat? Just sit down with the player, iron it out, give him what he wants.
Dave, rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat, don't tip the boat over.
I tend to disagree with Cash. I think it is going to be, well, it's what I've heard is just over image rights, and it's not as simple as just sitting down with the player. Not to cut over you, Cash, you're missing great points. it's to do with the agent as well.
Yeah.
The agent could be turning around saying, look, Sadio's not going to sign until you increase my agent fee up until whatever it is. Manny's came out, he's making all the right noises saying that, look, he really likes the club, he really loves it here. He's down cleaning toilets and mosques and all that. So for me, Manny seems to be one of the most humblest dudes around, in fairness to him. I think it'll be done. I was hoping it'd be done before the beginning of the season, but I can't see any reason why it won't be done. I think, there's nothing to worry about. I could be 100% wrong. I have no idea. But that's just my hunch. That's my opinion. I don't think there's too much to worry about.
I don't think there's.
Yeah, I think you're right in the sense that no, I'm not worried. What I mean is I'm worried that it's not been done yet, but I don't think that it won't be done. If that makes sense, just to clarify what I meant there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, as you say, just in the interest of getting everything settled, it would have been good to have it done. But I do think it will be done. But it's slightly worrying that it hasn't been yet.
Right, guys, final topic to have a little chat about tonight. We're going to have a chat about the Champions League group, the draw that pitted Liverpool against Paris Saint-Germain, Napoli and Red Star Belgrade. So I know we've talked about this before in the streams that we've done, but this is our first video podcast. This is my first catch up with the guys for the last couple of weeks. So I want to get Cash's thoughts and Dave's thoughts on the group that we've been given. And I want to start this off, Cash, by having a little, not a dig, but a little quip at the Napoli president, complaining to UEFA that they've been drawn against Liverpool and that Liverpool Champions League finalists of last year were placed in pot 3, and that somehow surprised this man, even though the fucking rules are clear.
Yeah, I just think he just needs to shut up really and just crack on. As I said, those are the noises of someone who's threatened by who they've got, and rightly so. You'd have to argue that Liverpool and PSG are favourites to progress in that group, and that'll not please him, obviously. So, and they've obviously lost Jorginho, who was their best player last season. They've kept a good core of that team, but they've lost their manager, they've lost Jorginho, and they've made an indifferent start to the season. Pepe Reina has gone to AC Milan, and obviously they did have a decent enough first 2 games of the season, but then I think they got pumped by Sampdoria 3-0 last weekend. So it's not. He's obviously pissed off and aggrieved that he's got one of the best teams in Europe in his group, as well he should be, but don't criticise the rules that are clear and have been rightly applied in this case. Just accept them and move on.
Dave, one thing that I always look for when the Champions League draw is made is the few hours later when we see what fixtures are actually going to be played when. So I want to get your thoughts on the way those fixtures have fallen for Liverpool, starting of course with the first game at home against Paris Saint-Germain on the 18th.
It's a great game to get over and done with, and you can set a real precedent for the rest of the group. I think we'll beat PSG. PSG haven't been great in Europe ever. Never mind, just recently. They've never been great in Europe. They don't play in a decent league, which for me, if you're not playing top quality opposition week in, week out, that makes yourself weak. I don't care what players you have in your team. And the other thing as well is Anfield will be absolutely hopping that night. They are a big team, PSG, but they're a French Man City. Do you know what I mean? They're just an oil-rich merchant team, and we love beating teams like that.
Yeah,
so,
we do.
Anfield will be rocking. It's a good game to get at home. I think we'll beat them. I think the group is okay. I think the Napoli president, I think it's just mind games, if I'm totally honest with you. We hockeyed them in pre-season. Albeit they were a week behind us in their pre-season training, but we absolutely clipped them. The game I'd be worried about is away at Red Star. I think that's in November. I think it's the first or the second game we play in November. But we have Arsenal away the week before, the Saturday before, and then we're in Belgrade on the Tuesday. I think we're playing them. So that's going to be a tricky game, but all going well, hopefully we'll have, 7 or 9 points and we should be in a pretty comfortable position.
On that Red Star Belgrade game, Cash, the away game, obviously everybody's minds immediately went to Sheridan Shaqiri when we heard about Red Star Belgrade. We were drawn against them with the away leg, and we've seen the president of Red Star Belgrade say that they will do everything they can to try and make Shaqiri feel safe, comfortable, and in the right mindset to play football.
Well, you would hope that would be the case. I think, the dispute between Shaqiri, and obviously his Kosovan roots and the Serbian, Serbia, it's well known. Obviously the World Cup flared things up a bit, considerably. But I don't know what to say to that except to hope and to pray that he's true in what he says, he's genuine in what he says, and that he sticks to his word. And notwithstanding, no one's saying that people's political beliefs and everything don't matter, but in terms of playing football, for those 90 minutes, they don't matter. So allow the player to do what he's paid to do, and do it peacefully would be my suggestion.
Do you think, Dave, he'll be wearing headphones on the bench?
Will he be on the bench? That's the thing. There's still serious shit out there that's going on. Do you know what I mean? And it's from both sides. Obviously Shaqiri being Albanian descent, same as Granit Xhaka. They went through a lot, them families. And it's hard for them to kind of not to think of these things. Look, hopefully politics and these kind of things is left to one side, and football is football. I know that's difficult, and especially out in the Balkans, it's difficult. But hopefully, look, we're talking about the football, Craig, and we're not talking about any of the nonsense, because just let's leave that to one side.
I have to say,
I think the interesting.
I have to say, when I looked at this, and I said I always look for the fixtures and the way they fall. So we start off with PSG at home, and then we've got Napoli away. Then the two fixtures against Red Star. Then we've got PSG away, and we finish up at Napoli at home. And for me, Cash, I'm really happy with the way the club have gone about and got those fixtures sorted. Napoli at home could be a great game. It could be a decisive game in the group, and to have home advantage for that last game for me could be vital.
Well, it's actually interesting that you say that. I'm going to try to get tickets for that game because it's my brother's birthday, and I want to get him tickets on that actual date on the 11th. Because I think that will be probably the best game of the group. Like, I know we've got PSG at home in the first game, and that'll be a cracking game as well. But it depends, I suppose, on how the group plays out. If, for example, Napoli are definitely going to go into the Europa League and we've already qualified, it might not be as exciting. However, there's just a real nice feel to that game to conclude things. And if there is something like sort of riding on it, that would be even better. But like you say, I think the group is bookended in a really nice way. You've got home game against PSG to start off with, a real chance to lay down a marker, and then you've got your home game against Napoli to finish off, to really truly put your own stamp on things. Like, I think the start and end of the group really has been left in Liverpool's hands to determine, which is nice.
Yeah, Dave, your thoughts on the way the fixtures have fallen?
Yeah, I think Cash made a great point there. I actually didn't think, starting at home and finishing at home. I'm gonna burst a bollocks to get out to Belgrade here from Germany. Yeah. It's not that expensive. I said that on the group. I just, they won the European Cup in 1991, and that apart from us, they're the only one team that's won it. Do you know what I mean? Which is surprising when you have a team like Napoli, considering the history they have with Maradona and Correca, and then PSG, who just shit money. But Red Star, they have to be taken seriously. As I said,
they do.
They are a European Cup winner, and it's a stadium I'd love to go to. I want to see that atmosphere. I think as fans for Liverpool, and what I've been reading as well, I think we're going to be okay. I don't think there's going to be too much animosity or trouble. And look, touch wood, but bring it on. This is where Liverpool Football Club again want to be. Realistically, ask the guys in the group, do we really give a fuck who's in our group?
I don't.
And the answer is no, because I don't either, mate. Because as I said, earlier on in this, on this chat, we're still in pre-season mode.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's my main thing whenever I saw when I saw the teams that we drew, was thinking that's a really nice range of countries to go to, in the sense that you've got your far flung, you've got your local in so far as Paris, and you've got obviously Italy. I mean, I would love to go to any of those games away from home. Doesn't look likely, but it would be fucking brilliant. But I think it's bring it on. Bring it on. No fear, just excitement. As I said, you can't, as a Liverpool fan, want us to be at this level and then complain when we don't get the right teams at this level. You've just got to beat what's in front of you and get on with it.
Right, guys, for a bit of fun,
put it this way,
go on, Dave. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, can you imagine being fucking Chelsea?
Well, exactly. Aren't they going?
Stay to them.
Their travel for the Europa League is something like 9,000 miles or something like that. It's a ridiculous amount. Or maybe it's Arsenal's is a ridiculous amount in comparison to Chelsea's.
No, it's Chelsea.
Is it Chelsea?
I think. Yeah, I think so, Clash. Yeah.
You know, I mean, but they'll. I mean, I presume they'll bring back many of their 45 kids out on loan at Vitesse Arnhem to play those games. You'd expect, but yeah, I'd rather be us than Chelsea. Like, let's be honest. You know, it's going to be a testing time for the squad. It is, and these players that aren't playing at the moment are going to play, and it's going to be a real test of our mettle. And bring it on, because Jurgen Klopp said he was going to bring heavy metal football. So test the metal. Let's see how we get on.
Fuck this, guys. These next 7 or 8 fixtures are tough, but that's what it's about. That's what we want to see. We want to play the best. This is what being a football fan is all about. This is what's important.
Exactly.
Liverpool Football Club is all
This
about.
weekend's going to be the worst of our lives. This weekend's going to be
Oh,
dreadful.
it's fucking horrible, isn't it? I'm already looking at it going, oh, what to do. But look, to finish up, a couple of things about Neymar, perhaps. So, Louis says Neymar will be rolling around everywhere. And then there was a beautiful comment here somewhere. Where is it gone? Mickey Fryer said, just remember, Dave, the breaking news from last week is that Liverpool have been granted planning permission for Neymar's high dive board to be installed before the game against Paris Saint-Germain.
He's such a little bitch.
Neymar's the type of fella I'd love to grab by the back of the head of the hair, bring him into the Albert and just kick 7 shades of shite out. Now roll, you little bitch. Because he wouldn't be able to fucking stand up, never mind roll.
Well,
I fucking despise him.
I don't. You know what it is? I think with Neymar, I'm not going to go down the whole GBH route that Dave's gone down. But with Neymar, it'd be GBH if he kicked the fucking shit out of him. Like, he can't even stand up. That's grievous. Anyway, I digress. But in terms of like Neymar, I just think it's now at the stage where his theatrics are outshining his talent. And I'm not really looking at him and thinking you're one of the best players in the world. I'm thinking you're just a massive prize little bitch. And that move to PSG just stinks. The whole rationale behind it, the motivation, the way he's conducted himself while he's been there, it all just stinks. And he doesn't scare me. I honestly think he could bring back Ragnar Klavan and he'd take care of him. You know, bring in Conor Randall, let him take care of him. Like anyone at the club, I don't think that Neymar is anything to fear. I think he's to be pitied in a weird, obscure way. If you're going to fear anyone, Kylian Mbappe is who you fear.
I was going to make a John Flanagan joke there and throw in the word bitch, and you can piece the rest together yourself, but I couldn't quite bring myself to say it. No, I held back. I'm proud of myself on that one.
But Neymar, he's just a fucking disgrace to football with his theatrics and his bullshit.
Imagine
you make that much money, like why are you going around acting like a complete little fucking...
His histrionics are absolutely ridiculous. Even this weekend, he scored in a PSG game against fucking Mickey Mouse FC, proving absolutely nothing to anyone. And then he goes over to a banner in the stands and fares he's a crybaby and then mimics crying. It's like, firstly, if I've scored a goal, I'm in complete adrenaline ecstasy mode. I'm not thinking of a preconceived idea to go and make fun of a sign about me. He's just so narcissistic. It's actually incredible.
What he is he's the fucking epitome of a YouTube footballer that all these little fucking arseholes around the world that don't know anything about the game but just love these superstars, overhead kicks, Panenkas, all this fucking flashy shit that happens once in a lifetime or once a season that they think that defines a footballer.
Well, this is what I think I said on one of the previous podcasts I've been on is, when has he been truly decisive? Give me a game or a trophy that he's been truly decisive in.
I'll give you one game, Cash, in fairness to him, and he didn't get the credit for it. It was when he was at Barcelona and they beat PSG with that comeback. He was sensational in that game.
Okay, fair enough.
Apart from that, he's a type of player now.
That's also
I'm not
the reason he's at Paris Saint-Germain now, Dave.
Correct, because he didn't get any. Well, because no one at Barcelona really gave a fuck about it.
Not because they disrespected PSG and PSG felt that they were going to come and rape Barcelona now and pay them back and take who the fuck they wanted from them.
Yeah, but Neymar was open and willing to let that happen. He wanted it because he wanted to go and be central somewhere else. And now that he is central somewhere else, there's another problem. It's not a good enough league for him. And it's like, you need to accept some kind of level and find happiness within it, because you're in a position that millions of people would envy, and you should really appreciate it. On his Instagram, he's always like, thanks God, trust in God, faith in God. Like, you can say that till you're blue in the face, but if you're morally bankrupt, like he appears to be, and you're just a complete like indulgent brat, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. You are not a good person. forget about him as a player. He just doesn't come across as a good person.
Dave, imagine leaving Barcelona because you're in Messi's shadow and you want to go and win the Ballon d'Or and rocking up to Paris Saint-Germain and still being the second best fucking player at the club.
Kylian Mbappe will win the Ballon d'Or before he does.
Or third? Would you have Cavani as a?
No, I wouldn't say Cavani's better than him. I wouldn't argue that.
As a pure footballer.
Well, in terms of like his overall contribution, maybe, but in terms of like actual ability and age and those various factors, I'd say Neymar's better. But the argument is Neymar just, he's just made bad decisions. I don't care how good you are and how much ability you have. If you don't make the right decisions at the right times, your career will be tainted with regret. And I think he will look back at his career and regret it.
Look at Cristiano Ronaldo. Look at Lionel Messi. And the work rate, Dave, and the effort that they put in to get to where they are and continue to put in on this training ground week after week to stay at that level. You don't see that with Neymar.
Yeah. No, you don't at all.
Not at all. And Ronaldo more so. I think Messi is more natural talent. I'm not saying Messi doesn't put in the effort because he most certainly does, but Ronaldo's
the machine, isn't he?
Oh God, yeah.
But I mean, Neymar can be summed up by one fact. There's the whole, I say rumour, it's not even a rumour. Every year he is injured at the time of his own birthday and his sister's birthday every year.
He fucking loves his sister,
last year,
he fucking loves his sister. I'm not saying in what way, but he loves his sister.
Well, exactly. He seems to fucking absolutely adore her, but it's just unprofessional. And it strikes me as he's someone that wants to have his life and play football around it, as opposed to football being his life and do other things around that. But it's epitomised by the fact that last year Unai Emery was made to go and cut a cake at Neymar's 3-day-long birthday party. Who gives a fuck? Yaya Toure didn't even get a cake. He didn't make much of a fuss about that. Lol jokes. But the point is, that is indulgent, ridiculous behaviour that Unai Emery was probably forced to adhere to because you've got to keep Neymar happy. If I thought I was that much of a bad influence at the club, I'd be ashamed of myself. I think he's shameful, to be honest.
He is shameful. Do you know what I was going to say there? It's just a pity Graham Souness wasn't 40 years younger. Because he would have just broke him never mind in 2, he would have broke him in fucking 10.
Yeah, he's a little
You know what, guys? I could carry on talking about this little prick for a very long time, but we've got to bring it to a close. I just want to read out some comments from the chat before we finish up. Eric Worry said Neymar is in the shadow of Mbappe, he's still number 2. Mossy Wassy said Neymar was never going to win the Ballon d'Or. Where else? Neymar is overhyped and full of shit, said Mickey Friars. Yeah. And Coutinho is better than Neymar, says Ryan. And I'd agree with that, actually.
He's getting there. He's getting there, yeah.
Always gets time off for a cocaine party in Brazil, according to Ryan as well. And look, we have to use words like allegedly and, all the legal shit for the lawyers that are watching, allegedly. But look, we're going to leave it there. This was the first ever Anfield Agenda video podcast. So thank you to Cash. Thank you to Dave for joining us. We will work these things out as we go along, guys. But thank you so much for joining us on this one. We'll be back in about 15 minutes with tonight's late night agenda. But to you guys, to Dave, to Cash, to everybody that took part in the stream, thank you so much for joining us. And up the motherfucking Reds.